Somebody should go check in on Lane Kiffin because that man just took a mean L. Jamonta Waller is a Florida Gator, baby.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. And now this is just yet another impromptu episode is what we'll say here because, well, this is Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time is when the announcement is happening, and Jamonta Waller is a Florida Gator. I am Brandon Olson. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. And we're talking Jamonta Waller because guess what? This is a massive, massive addition to this Florida Gators 2024 recruiting class where like that it's nothing short of absolutely incredible, where I can't even get words out of my mouth. Like that's how excited I am for this because it's truly there's more. Like yesterday we recorded with Brian Smith and then or earlier today. This is going to be the Tuesday show. So my today and yesterday is going to be all messed up because it's coming out Monday night because Jamonta Waller's committing at 8 p.m. and this is the fourth episode that's come out today. So I think it's fair to say that. But yesterday, earlier today, whenever you're listening, we talked with Brian Smith about just this. And he was like, it's incredible to see just the momentum that's being had here in Florida, making these climbs and doing all these incredible, incredible things. And then they do even more of it. But of course, yesterday recorded right before Jamonta Waller committed to Florida. And that's how things go. But Jamonta Waller, I mean, huge. He committed to the Florida Gators over Ole Miss Rebels and Lane Kiffin, L7 Weenie, Auburn Tigers, Penn State, Alabama Crimson Tide, because scared money don't make money. And that's how things go here. Jamonta Waller is number 28 nationally on 24/7, the number 5 edge rusher in the country, and the number 1 player in the state of Mississippi. So Jamonta Waller, fantastic add for this class. And yeah, like there's just no other way to say it other than this is just a fantastic, like Florida. I don't even know what they're on. If this was just like, hey, Lane pissed us off, now we're going after everybody or whatever it is. But Jamonta Waller, the Florida Gators, made significant progress this weekend while he was on campus. And evidently, it was strong enough to get him to commit. Jamonta Waller is someone that we did kind of hear some little rumors about when before Aaron Chiles committed, they were like, oh, there's going to be a fourth guy. He's going to be a front 7 player. And it was Aaron Chiles, Jamonta Waller. Who is it going to be? It was Aaron Chiles. And then it was also Jamonta Waller just 2 days later. But this is just remarkable from Picayune, Mississippi. And man, Lane Kiffin, you are a loser. I hope you have your popcorn ready because damn, you're going to need it. You're going to need it because Florida going to keep putting on a show against Lane and everybody else. Have fun being ranked in the 20-somethings with your recruiting class. Wow, yikes. But Florida now has 16 commits in the 2024 class. 16. They had 9 a week ago. Like, that's where 9, or actually 8 a week ago. It's been incredible. Perhaps, I don't want to say more incredible because I feel like that makes it seem like a positive thing, but perhaps even more notable, we'll say, is that of those 16 commits, only 2 are from the state of Florida. Billy Napier, when he got hired, said, hey, we want to wall off Florida. We want to win Florida, 500-mile radius, all that stuff. And he was being honest, by the way. He wasn't like lying at all. But incredible that Of the 16 kids, 2 of them are from Florida. Last year was incredibly Florida heavy. This year, there's a few reasons for it being less Florida heavy. And by Florida heavy, I mean high schoolers from the state of Florida going to Gainesville. One, in state, Florida's just a little bit weaker this year than they usually are. Okay? And in terms of high school recruits that are ready to go to play college ball, a little bit weaker than usual. 2, this is a fantastic year for states like even Mississippi, Georgia, Texas. Look at where Florida's class is coming from. Look at Florida's class where you go Texas, Texas, Florida, Georgia, Maryland, Georgia, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, Georgia, Maryland, Germany, and of course, adding Jamonta Waller to that, Mississippi. So it's just a great year, really, all around for high school players, just a little bit worse Florida-wise, or even I wonder if it just feels like it's a little bit worse because everywhere else is so great. Jamonta Waller, we talked about him on yesterday's bonus show, and like Brian Smith mentioned on yesterday's bonus show, Florida's high school kids take longer to make their decisions than other states, just on average. And the University of Florida is kind of just letting kids that want to be Gators commit to the Florida Gators. And that means other kids are committing to Florida before many of the Florida kids get a chance to, or take advantage of their opportunity to do so. But Jamonta Waller being a Florida Gator here is just an absolutely massive addition to this 2024 class. Like immediately, Florida is still on 24/7. They are still the number 5 class in the country, which, sure, it's fine, right? Sorry, let me double check this. It says that, according to On3's class calculator that I'm doing right now, it says Florida will still be number 5 in the country. That doesn't even look right. They're so weird, but that's what they have. But Florida's just incredible progress, even if they're number 5, which they shouldn't be. I feel like the class calculator is wrong. Should probably throw them up into the minimum 4 spot over Notre Dame. Maybe even number 3 passing Ohio State. Like it's just incredible the momentum that they've built when they were just in the 20s, a week ago. It's remarkable. And a lot of the kids that have committed, Marcus Mascoll, Michai Boireau, both are guys that we say, hey, they're going to be risers. They're going to be risers this year. That means that they're going to help the class even further move forward. We're about to talk about just Jamonta Waller's fit with the Florida Gators. But first, today's episode of Locked On Gators, today's bonus episode, or today's Tuesday show of Locked On Gators is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. I've been betting the over on every Florida Gators baseball game so far, and it's cashed every time. So Florida is a free money glitch. I had a parlay yesterday of Jordan Walker getting a hit, Paul Goldschmidt getting a hit, and Joey Meneses getting a hit, and it was plus 137 odds. So that, chef's kiss. It was beautiful as well. So go to FanDuel.com/locked-on to learn more. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. And we're talking about this Jamonta Waller fit with the Florida Gators because guess what? He committed, and that's huge news for the Gators. Jamonta Waller previously was leaning Auburn and then Ole Miss. In my opinion, that's how it was shaped up. Or not in my opinion, in my experience, that's how it was shaped up. Auburn, then Ole Miss, then Florida. One of the things that Jamonta Waller said was important to him was that he wants to play edge under Ron Roberts at Auburn. Do you remember the name Ron Roberts, Gators fans? And by Gators fans, I mean Locked On Gators listeners. Because guess what? We've talked about Ron Roberts a lot here because he was Patrick Toney's mentor. And I don't care how you feel about Patrick Toney, that's irrelevant. The part that is relevant is that Ron Roberts is thought of as kind of the godfather of creepers, replacement blitzes. So Jamonta Waller wanting to play edge there as a guy that people say he's going to be edge. Some people say he's going to be an off-ball linebacker. He wants to play edge there first, at least. But in that defense, creepers are a thing, dropping back into coverage. Austin Armstrong still has a lot of those same principles, a lot of those same tendencies. So for Austin Armstrong, he's going to have his edge rushers drop back into coverage every now and then. And his off-ball linebackers are going to blitz more frequently than they would with Auburn, which I feel is important because if after the Florida visit, it was like, okay, Auburn or Florida, where do I want to be? Like Florida is the better choice there. Not even anything against Auburn. It's just you have Austin Armstrong in Gainesville, where Austin Armstrong, people think you're going to play edge or off-ball linebacker. Austin Armstrong can play you at both spots and kind of ask you to do the same thing, just different rates. Like if you're an edge for Austin Armstrong, you're going to be dropping back into coverage probably 10% of the time. If you're an off-ball linebacker for Austin Armstrong, you're going to be rushing the passer probably 25+% of the time. So you're going to get to do both. Whereas if you're with Ron Roberts, there's not as much pass rushing from off-ball linebackers. That's a very Austin Armstrong thing from that coaching tree. So for Austin Armstrong, that's huge. He's also worked under, of course, Will Muschamp, Kirby Smart, all these great football minds. So Austin Armstrong is going to get you used, right? Especially for Jamonta Waller, who he's listed at 6'2". There are quite a few people that work in recruiting that have said, hey, he doesn't even look 6'1" in person. He's going to have to play off ball. He's not long enough to play the edge. Well, you could play off ball and still get to rush the passer if you're Jamonta Waller with the Florida Gators. As far as Jamonta Waller fitting in the class, biggest thing that you have to talk about is that this continues to add versatility to this defense. I talked about this on yesterday's show, where one of the great things that Florida has done is consistently added guys who could play multiple roles. And that's something that they're going to continue to do. But for Florida, you've done it kind of excessively at this point. You got Xavier Filsaime is probably your only guy where it's like he's a safety, he's going to stay there. Myles Graham, people say he's a linebacker. He's probably not great at the edge, but he's a blitzing linebacker. Okay, Jared Davis. Adarius Hayes, linebacker / edge. Aaron Chiles, linebacker, can also play edge. One thing for him was playing in a versatile defense that will use him multiple ways. So you have that. Amaris Williams, likely going to be playing the F or the Jack spot. Nasir Johnson, the 3 or the 1. Like all these additions. Josiah Davis, likely going to stick into the slot, or likely going to stay at the safety spot. Michai Boireau, nose tackle. We know that. He's very specific build for that. But so many guys that could play multiple spots. And now we're talking about Jamonta Waller, and we go, okay, he could play linebacker, he could play edge. If you do want to play him at off-ball linebacker, that gives you probably the most versatile off-ball linebacker recruiting class we've ever seen in terms of having, 3 guys that people are like, yeah, they can play linebacker or edge. That's incredible. That's also amazing when you just consider the fit for this defense. Like the fit for the defensive second level players at linebacker to rush the passer, drop back into coverage. Edge rushers, you have to rush the passer and defend the run and drop back into coverage. Like having to do all those things is incredible. But I think one thing that makes it a little bit easier for this defense is that whether you're a linebacker or an edge rusher, you're going to be doing all the same things. You're going to drop back into coverage. You're going to rush the passer and you're going to defend the run. It's just a matter of what percentage of the time you do those things. And I don't mean it like corner where you blitz, 6 times a year. And it's like, well, you do all the same things. You know what I mean? Part of your consistent responsibilities are very similar, just a matter of how often you do what. I will also say, because yesterday, I think it was, I mentioned that I think Chris Jones might not have a committable offer to the Florida Gators anymore. That is not a knock on Chris Jones. I know someone commented and got mad at me. Nothing to do with Chris Jones. I still would take him in a heartbeat with this Gators class. I still would add him with no hesitation. I still wish him nothing but the best, and I still think he's going to be very good. However, I don't know how this defensive staff would really justify taking, 4 or 5 off-ball linebackers, depending on how you look at certain guys, up to 5 off-ball linebackers if you add Chris Jones to it, or taking 4 legitimate hybrid linebackers. It seems very redundant for a group that has more needs than just that, right? Which we are about to talk about those needs. But first, a quick word from our sponsors. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can feel free to like, subscribe, comment, review, join the Locked On Gators Discord. Links in the description below. But now we are talking about the remainder of this Florida Gators class. And I'm not talking about a mock class right now, which is annoying that last week I was asking people, I was like, hey, when you do a mock class, how do you really set things up? And then, Florida filled most of their class. And it's like, oh, never mind then. But this is not a mock class. This is me saying kind of what the team needs. And first off, for me, still need pass catchers. Whether that's 2 or 3 more wide receivers, another tight end, another running back. Not sure how much effort this staff is going to continue to put into running back for 2024 after losing Chauncey Bowens. But Kanan Daniels, I'm totally fine with. Receiver, there's a few guys who are flip candidates. There's a few guys who are maybe considering the Florida Gators and a couple other schools. But Florida, I think, will get their 2 or 3 more receivers. I think Florida will get another tight end. I don't think they'll get another running back. Offensive line, you still need to add. I spoke about this with Brian Smith, where it's great for Florida that you have Rob Sale and Darnell Stapleton as fantastic offensive line developers. Okay? That's a fantastic thing for this team. I understand a lot of people want an offensive coordinator. That likely means replacing Rob Sale, which likely means losing Rob Sale as your offensive line coach as well, and not having his coaching status and his coaching style. Okay? Keep Rob Sale and Darnell Stapleton. Great that they're adding these players, though, that they added Marcus Mascoll, that they added Noel, I think it's pronounced Portenyagen, that they added Mike Williams. They're adding good pieces to this recruiting class, but they're all developmental pieces. I would like to see the Florida Gators go, okay, we've added enough developmental offensive linemen. Let's bring in someone who fans genuinely see him pick the Gators and go, oh, he could play next year. Because no one has said that about Mike Williams. No one has said that about Noel Portenyagen. No one has said that about really anybody here. And Marcus Mascoll is just another one of those guys. Marcus Mascoll, they're all thought of as tall, long, heavy athletes, which is great because Rob Sale has proven he can get those guys to the NFL. But bring in some guys that are ready to play right away with a little bit of refinement, could be starters in year 1. Corner. Florida still has not added a corner for this class. That's a blue chip, true proven talent that's going to be able to start on the outside and play on the outside early. I feel like that's an important part for a corner in the SEC, that a lot of great corners play young, even rotating in, just because of how rotation heavy they are. So you need to add, for me, another big high-ranking quarterback or a high-ranking corner to this class. And aside from that, we know that this Florida Gators recruiting class, like the staff does not intend on taking a very large recruiting class. They want to use those other scholarships on the transfer portal. However, I will say one thing is maybe that can change. I'm not saying it should change, but I'm saying maybe Florida didn't think that they would get a good deal of these guys that they ended up getting. And it's like, okay, well, now we have a lot more than we thought we'd have in terms of commitments to this class, so that might change. But the plan for Florida was to not have a huge class. At that point, it's just getting elite high school recruits that are trying to get to Gainesville. That has to be your next goal if you're the Florida Gators. That's it. Get some offensive line, some receivers, a blue chip corner, and if there's elite talent that wants to come to Gainesville, then you listen and you maybe extend that scholarship. But for the most part, I would not expect this class to be drastically different aside from some additions at this point. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow. I mean, it's just crazy recruiting. That's it. You know what we're talking about. Guess what? The next day we're talking about recruiting too. Maybe we'll talk about baseball one of these days. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olson. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33, and I will see you all tomorrow.